three in a row. Three in a row, and you're and potentially four in a row when you face Manchester City this Saturday or Sunday. I think you play Man City. How do you see things? What did you make of Spurs' performance on Saturday? First of all,
look, I thought we started brilliantly. I think let's be really, really honest. For everyone that watched it, I think most people would have watched it being the kind of 2:00 kickoff on a Sunday. I thought we were excellent. First 30 minutes, I thought we were absolutely excellent. We played some lovely football. I think most people would have said we played great football. I think we pressed brilliantly. Villa didn't really know what hit them, to be honest. Villa couldn't cope with our press. They couldn't cope with our energy. We didn't take our chances, which is a recurring theme this year. We're not taking chances. But the problem that you've got with this, if you're going to play this style of football, you're going to burn out. And what we're starting to see from Spurs in most games, Terry, is you get to about 50 minutes, 55 minutes, 60 minutes, and the press goes because the legs have gone, the energy's gone, and it's all sapped out of the players. And what I started to notice is early on in the second half, whereas in the first half, we were pressing that midfield free of Newcastle, of Villa so much that they couldn't find Digne. They couldn't find Cash. They couldn't find Diaby and Watkins. In the second half, our energy goes. The press isn't as much, and it gave Tielemans, Kamara, Tielemans, Kamara, John McGinn, all of these players, Douglas Luiz, 2 or 3 more seconds on the ball to look up, get the ball, and then start finding Leon Bailey, who came on and made a difference, start finding Luca Digne, Watkins. And I think once that happened, they started to create chance after chance after chance. And it's an issue because there's some really good football being played, but it's not conducive for 90 minutes. And teams are now seeing that. So I look at it really, really good, mixed in with some disappointment. People say we should have been 3 or 4-0 up, but I think Villa had some really good chances in the first 5 minutes as well. They missed a blunt header. Someone else missed it from 10 yards away. And, a game of 2 halves. Very good first half. Very, very good first half. Second half ran out of steam, and it seems to be the thing. And that's why I've said I think that Postecoglou's style of play is great, but the in-game tweaks that I think need to happen. Otherwise, I think it borders on being naive, and I think teams will get at us easily. Well, I say will. They are, Terry. They are getting at us easily. So we can talk all we want about, did we deserve a point? Did we deserve 3? At the end of the day, we're running out of energy. Teams are beating us. You deserve what you get. If you don't finish your dinner, you deserve what you get. So hard to take, but Villa won it fair and square, and we move on to Man City away. So, yeah.
What you said there about in-game, that was my biggest take. I think sometimes when people speak of style of play, they make it all-encompassing. Style of play isn't necessarily your formation. It certainly isn't your in-game management. And I thought what he got wrong was the million miles an hour first 45 minutes you played. I think your team died in the second half. I think their legs went. There wasn't the quality to bring on to maintain how you started. And that's something which I think he's got to get right. How do you see it going against Manchester City?
Look, first of all, you're right. Just quickly before I answer the Man City thing, first of all, you're right. If you are going to play this style of play, which is all out gung-ho, pressing, you've got to have 4 or 5 top players to bring on that can continue to do that when the legs run out, and we haven't got that. Man City, listen, I've made no bones about it. I said even before our injuries and suspensions, Terry, I was expecting Man City to batter us. Spurs are trying to learn a new style of play. This has only been implemented for 13 games. It's not like we're the masters at it. It's not like we've had years of practice at it. Some players are better than others at it. And we're finding that now. And unfortunately, lots of the players that are now coming into the team due to injuries just they weren't good enough anyway, let alone good enough to play this type of one-touch pressing football.
Yeah.
So, look, I think it's going to be a long day at the office. I think what's going to happen is I think we will probably start quite well. We tend to. I think we'll probably start quite well. I think we'll grab a few chances. We'll have a bit of the football. Then I think when the game settles down, City will have a lot of the ball and they'll punish us because our defense just isn't good enough and our legs will go. So I'm not expecting anything from it. I'll say the same thing to you that I said before the Wolves and the Villa game. I said this to both. I don't know if you remember this. I said, if we get anything, I said, I'd bite your hand off for a draw against Wolves.
Yeah.
Was called negative. Bite your hand off for a point against Villa was called negative. If we get anything against Man City, it's the best result of the season for us. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
We saw last night, City can have a terrible 45 minutes, right? They can have a terrible 45 minutes. And then second half, they just switch it on. They grab 3 goals. So I am worried. I'm very worried. But for me, it's a free hit. For me, this game is a free hit.
Free hit. No, I understand. Look, I think it's one of those games where you're expected to lose. I know you've got a good, you're seen as their bogey team, but not predominantly at their ground and certainly not playing open and expansive football. I just can't see a way you win. The only way, honestly, the only way would be a couple of early goals and City lose a man. That honestly is and Rodri goes off injured. Then I think you could do it. With the way Wolves and the way Villa were able to cut through you at times, it took Villa until the second half. I just see Man City. I think this could be a big one. I think it could be 4 or 5 goals conceded. I think it could be a bit of a drumming, and probably would be that final cherry on top of the icing, on top of the cake of those Spurs fans who were coming for you and were coming for Kate, saying that you were disgraces, you weren't really Spurs fans, you were too negative. Where you all, I know you won't be happy if you get beat badly at the weekend, but it's what a lot of level-headed Spurs fans said when there was all this praise from the media, all of this, we're not Spursy anymore, we're in a title race, I think we can beat City home and away. It's one of those things for me where I don't feel sorry for Tottenham, but it's a case of like reality has hit really hard.
For some, Terry.
Yeah.
For some, and this is the thing. Like, I do find it funny. Like that, it's difficult. The Spurs fan base is, I suppose, like any fan base. We've got loads of people who are just super, super, super positive. It doesn't matter what happens; they're just positive, and they're seen as really good fans because they're positive. They say nice things. You get people who are very level-headed, and then you get people who are ultra negative. For me, I just think it's somewhere in the middle of all that. I've always said this year is about building, growing, implementing a philosophy. I said there's going to be loads of ups, which we've had this season already. There's going to be a lot of downs, which we're currently experiencing this season. And for me, I didn't think there was pressure on Postecoglou this year to have to go and achieve anything, right? I don't even know what that means, by the way, Terry, being a Spurs fan, as to what achieving something means in year one. But this is year one. He picked us up from a terrible, terrible, terrible place, right? An awful place. We had no style. The players weren't confident. The fans weren't enjoying it. He's picked us up. He's breathed a new bit of life into the club. The problem that I think has happened is that 10 games at the beginning of the season, that 10 games at the beginning of the season, I think has raised expectations so high within the Spurs fan base. But equally from rival fans, what they've done now is gone, okay, cool. You're now talking big. You're now saying you're going to win this. You're now talking about you're great and there's not Spurs anymore. That the first opportunity there is they're going to knock it down. This is why I don't get embroiled in either of those two things. I don't get embroiled in, oh my God, Spurs are terrible. This is awful. And I don't get embroiled with, we're brilliant. This is brilliant. We're the best team. Things are different. We're going to win a league. Postecoglou's the best. For me, I think this year's just got, people have got to let it ride out. We're going to lose games. We're going to win games. And I feel like everything, as I said to you so many times before, Terry, everything is about right now with so many football fans. For me, I'm not worried. Yeah, if we lose to City, we'll lose to City. We lose at City most years anyway. It's not a new thing, right? We
Yeah,
lose
yeah, yeah.
games. What's highlighted it? I'll ask you this. I'll ask everyone in your chat this as well. If you had said to me at the beginning of the season, Terry, after 14, this is hypothetical, right? Hypothetically, we lose at the weekend. That'll be 4 defeats, Terry, in 14 games, right? 4 and 14. If you had said to me before the season, Sav, after 14 games of football in the Premier League, you're going to have won 8, drawn 2, and lost 4, I'll bite your hand off.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know the difference now? It's because those 4 defeats are going to all be in a row. If they had been scattered out, if the start hadn't have been as good and it had been maybe win, lose, draw, win, lose, draw, lose. Yeah, I think everyone would have just kept their feet on the ground. Everything would have been calm. The problem is now there's no middle ground with Spurs. Fans, I can see it. Rival fans are enjoying going, you're not as good as you thought. You're this, you're that. And Spurs fans are doubling down, Terry. So the fans that were saying we're going to win a title, they're seen. This is what cracks me up about them. They're seen as being, they're really positive. There's a difference between being positive and realistic. So for me, everything is fine. We're going to lose games. But what we've got to make sure we do, Terry, is if we do lose to City, we've then got 2 home games, got to pick up some points. We've got West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, not easy games. But what we've got to make sure is that it doesn't get to 6 defeats. Right? It can't get to 6 defeats, 7 defeats. So
I understand that.
I'm level-headed. I feel like I'm level-headed with it.
But I think you have been, and this is why I've said it to a few of the Spurs guys, like, celebrate each win. But when some of them were going crazy about what you guys were going to do, I almost felt like saying, why allow the narrative around your club to get out of control? Bigging it up now means even if you, I'm not losing 4 on the bounce is always bad. I don't think there's ever a good time to lose 4 on the bounce. It doesn't read well. Sure. It feels bad. Sure. But it's going to be over-egged. It's going to be overplayed because of people like Harry, as an example. We're going to win the league, and we're going to brush City aside. You start saying those things, and then rivals and fans will hold you to account. The media didn't help, and I said this to Spurs fans. I weren't digging you guys out. I keep saying how well you've started. I think what a breath of fresh air Postecoglou is. He's got things to improve on, but he's been brilliant. He's been really, really, really good.
Yeah, for sure.
When I saw headlines talking about Spursy are fixed, comparing him to Sir Alex Ferguson, I said it on videos and was called bitter. I wasn't being bitter. I'm being realistic. You were being set up by the media for a mighty fall. And it's what they do. They build up to knock down. And anybody that doesn't think that's true, you only got to look at the rise and fall of teams. And sometimes we think the club's a media darling, then things start going wrong, and then they absolutely pull the rug from underneath their feet. And Spurs have had it in a very quick time here, and they lose again. And it rises up rival, and this is what Spurs fans don't see. Rivals like, how comes Postecoglou getting praised when he's losing? The media is setting again this Kardashian style drama. The media know it's going to wind up Chelsea. It's going to wind up West Ham. It's going to wind up Arsenal. We've got huge fan bases online and in reality when they see Spurs still being praised after losing 3 on the bounce. Spurs still maybe being praised after 4 on the bounce. And Spurs fans buy into it and go, yeah. And it's all about creating this drama and this banter and this huge rug to pull from underneath your feet if things go wrong. And I just think sometimes just push back against the media yourself and say that's nonsense. Like we were bad today, or like you've done. You're happy with Postecoglou, I know you are.
Yeah.
And people came for you because the mainstream argument was, "No, Spurs are just brilliant. That's all you can say. If you don't say they're brilliant, you're a hater, or you should push off down the road and be an Arsenal fan."
Do you know what? I think Spurs are going to have a good season this season, right? I think we're going to have a good season. By good season, I think we're going to get back into Europe. Okay. And the beginning of this season, this is what I said, Terry. Okay. Beginning of the season said Spurs' aim should be to get back into Europe. Right. We can talk about winning trophies. We can talk about winning. Okay. Spurs' aim this season should be to get back into Europe. Let Postecoglou start getting rid of Deadwood, start bringing in some of his own players and start implementing a style of play so that when you get to next summer, you've had a year, everyone knows how he plays, everyone knows what we are, and then he has another summer and another January window where you start getting rid of a few more of the deadwood and bring in a few of the new ones. People have got to remember that we've gone from Conte with a group of players that have been stale for many, many, many years, playing an awful style of football, to a manager that's come in and gone, right, we haven't upped it a notch there. It's not like we've gone from a team that played good football to a team that's playing brilliant football. We've gone from a team that played god-awful football to now trying to play. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I think that needs to be tweaked in game? Yes, I do. But it is exciting to watch. Now, the whole exciting to watch thing is only good for me for year one. And what I mean by that is you can get away with games like Villa in year one because we're sorting this out. It's like what we saw. A lot of the players against Villa weren't his players. A lot of those players were not his players. They were players from previous. So that needs time to ship out. Equally, what fans, for me, fans can support a football club in any way they want. In any way they want, support a club. You support Man U how you want. I support Spurs how I want. Equally, I think if you actually ask fans deep down inside, does anyone think Spurs are brilliant yet? I don't think they do. I think they know there's a lot of work to be done. Are Spurs good enough to win titles? No. I think deep down we knew we weren't. But was it a brilliant start to the season? Yes. And these two things are what are being confused, Terry. What is a good start versus what is a good year? There's a huge difference for me. So, listen, I keep my feet on the ground. I think Spurs, I've said all season, finishing the top four will be an epic season, right? I think that'll be, give the guy a statue if he gets us top four. But more likely it's going to be Europa League or Conference League. If we don't get one of those, it's not the end of the world, but there wouldn't have been any improvement from a league position from last year. But for the long term of the club, and I know this is where fans hate it, not Spurs fans, all football fans hate it, right? For the long-term good of Tottenham, my overriding feeling has always been, at last, we've got a manager that wants to implement something that can see us play like this for our future. Yes. That was more important to me this year than, are we fourth? Are we third? Are we fifth? That is the overriding factor to me. So losing 3 or 4 games isn't the end of the world. I don't think people keep coming onto my show going, oh my God, you think it's a crisis? I don't think it's a crisis. I think a crisis is if you get to 7 games. If Spurs lose, sorry for ranting, if Spurs lose, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home, and then Forest away, and you've lost 7 in a row, then you go, hang on, there's some massive problems here. I don't think that will happen. I think we will probably lose to City. And then I think between Forest, Newcastle, and West Ham, you've got to be looking at getting 4 to 6 points.
Yeah, you certainly do. It's a bit like with the Chelsea situation. Although they have to kind of stick with Poch, there's still an element of it. He can't keep losing games. He can't stay. Sure. He can't finish the season 10th or 11th because there's not enough progression there in terms of league position. Got to get back into Europe of some sort as an example. So you're absolutely right. It's about balance here. I think what you said that I agree with completely is around creating something that is sustainable, not just for in terms of stylistic level of football, the style of football you want to play, not just for Big Ad, but beyond him. I've always said with Spurs, the biggest mistake Daniel Levy's ever made was when he left, when Poch was sacked, going to Jose's, to Nuno, to Conte, now back to Big Ad. It's almost like you've blacked out for 4 or 5 years, and you didn't continue in that kind of attacking mentality of football. And if you'd have done that, I think you may have won something. I don't think you'd have fallen off the way in which you kind of did. But viewers, let us know what you think. Let us know what you feel about what's been said here.